All right, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. It's been a few months again. What's new? I did some uploads in January, but then I forgot again once school started, and which hopefully I'll finally be finishing up uni. After all the transferring and all the blah 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 blah. Anyways, yes. All right. So it's kind of gonna be kind of like a, I want to say a talking head video. We'll see, but basically, I kind of wanted to touch upon language learning goals. Mostly in my case, and most people who watch my videos, mostly on Japanese. But this can be applicable to any other language, really. And it's been a while since I talked about learning Japanese or um, languages and whatever. And so I wrote up a script just kind of to put my thoughts together. We'll see how much I just kind of go off that, but either way, it's kind of something I kind of wanted to bring up because it's been something I've been thinking about a lot. I don't know how a lot of people feel about like how fast their progress is or how much progress they made in the amount of time they've been learning. Like I started learning almost no, just about 6 years ago. I started in 2018. 2018 February 1st, 2018. So it's been 6 years since then. Oh my god. Yep, roughly. Yep. Um. So, cause yep, 6 years, 7 years now, maybe. If I'm doing the math right. From 2018 to 2025, and we have only started 2025, so I think it's roughly a little over 6 years, something. I'm not doing I'm not doing all that. Whatever. Anyways, roughly somewhere between 6 7 years at this point. And really intensively for like the first year and a half to two, or the first 18 months, I would say. And then after that, COVID was also a big time for me. Because I was just reading light novels all day. I was going nuts. I bought so many, it's crazy. And I read most of them. There's very few that I did not read, and those were ones that I either got for free or got for so dirt cheap, and wasn't that much interested in. Like, I think Dan Machi was one of them where I just wasn't really interested in reading it, even though I had it. And so there's a couple things I haven't read in there in my Kindle library, but I've read most of what I've bought. The stuff that's unread is for the most part paperback books, and there's some that I've kind of dropped, and there's some I'll get back to. But anyways, I'm already 3 minutes in, and I'm already fucking going off topic. But um, I'm gonna just get into kind of what I had in writing, just so that before I go on another tangent. If I go talk about something else after that, that's whatever. But I kind of want to get into like my main thoughts. So here we go, cause I got my doc open with what I had. So we'll see. I didn't proofread this or anything like that. So I might just have to like improvise as I go or whatever. So just bear with me. But so like I said, I started learning Japanese back in 2018. I was 17 years old at the time and turned 18 later that same year. I always knew that language courses at school were useless because I saw how worthless they were throughout my years in the public school system and figured that college would be no better. And I was right. So I began learning Japanese with immersion. This was kind of, honestly, a lot because of Matt vs. Japan. I mean, he was a little bit more aggressive about immersion than he was now, but it was probably because of meeting him in Discord. And I was like, all right, this guy's talking so much shit. And then turned out he was actually pretty good. So, I was like, you know what? He was kind of an asshole at the time, but it's like, well, he was good. So let's hear him out. And then it just turned out to be, a positive influence in terms of like how I went about learning and stuff. And so, but anyways, back to what I was saying before. So I started learning with immersion, and I reached a fairly decent level. Not anything really amazing. I don't really speak that much because I don't feel the need to go out and talk to people because I mainly learned to consume media I liked, and I'm able to do that without a problem now. Now I do need to pull out like either monolingual, sometimes bilingual or bilingual dictionary. I just use whichever I need at the time. But I can read visual novels, I can read light novels and stuff. Like I can enjoy the media that I want to enjoy without much of an issue. I could work on my listening skills some more since I spend a very disproportionate amount of time reading over listening and speaking. But again, this is mostly a hobby for me. Like, could it become a career path? Maybe, but definitely not a very well-paying one. And frankly, it would take some of the fun out of the learning. And I know that there's some people who've made very lucrative careers translating, but that's not the case for most people. So that's why I say that. So the main point is goals, right? Many learners keep going at it years after years, chasing, hoping to, chasing that point of like, oh my god, I never need to use a dictionary again or something like that. When learning the language, like, oh, I won't have to rely on this thing to, I won't have to keep learning. Like, I'll kind of be good, and that'll be it. Some people just want to look up every word now and then, and hopefully it doesn't happen too often, but they don't mind having to look up stuff every now and then. But so it had me thinking, like, how much do I want to learn? So it's been about like 2 years since I last watched an anime, which was Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which I think I watched in 2023. And it's just recently I started watching The Apothecary Diaries. And so it's been like 2 years since I watched anime. And so I started watching it with JP subs because I barely even listen to that much Japanese. It's some podcasts here and there, but very, like, maybe for 10-15 minutes, and it's like every few months or whatever when I remember. And so even though like reading watching a show without subs is better for listening, I just kind of didn't feel like I just want to have the JP subs on, so it's just easy for me to follow along. And to be fair, even JP subs, when just dubbing in general, it's not always easy to hear clearly what characters are saying. Like, even when I'm watching stuff in English, I prefer to have subtitles on just because sometimes I just don't pick up things. And so, like, sure, we take off the subtitles when we're learning Japanese. Like, even the Japanese subtitles sometimes we want to focus on listening, but like in my native language, I don't do that. And I understand why I used to do that for Japanese, and I could still benefit from it, but I just didn't feel like it. I really didn't. But also that show in particular, there's a lot of like Chinese cultural influences, so I actually did help a lot because there was stuff that was not like clicking with me right away until I started like reading some stuff or see some of the kids. I'm like, oh, okay, so yeah, so I could feel my comprehension lacking in some aspects. Like, there's sometimes where I had to look up somewhere to like really make out what specifically they were talking about. Even though I knew the word, like sometimes like the words, but when they're put together, you're not really understanding what they mean, in the way that you think you are or whatever. So I might have to like rewind sometimes, but that's not really that big of an issue, And again, it's something that doesn't. There's stuff in there that doesn't frequently come up in just reading regular stuff. It's mostly if you read stuff related to China in that era, maybe, but aside from that, it's like but at the same time, it's like no matter how much you get, this will always kind of happen, like where sometimes you don't understand things. Like I was reading The Witcher, and the writing like I got the Witcher series. I started reading the I think it was the last whatever the one that they recommend you read first is, which I think is The Last Wish. There was sometimes then again it kind of uses like UK punctuation and stuff, so at least the copy I had, because I was trying to be cheap and get a pack and whatever. But even just without that, like the writing style in general would just kind of confuse me. Like I get confused with who's speaking sometimes and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that you can't get to the point to where those aren't a problem in either your native language or a foreign language. But it's just like, is it that big of a deal? Is it that much worth the effort? Like it sometimes we look too deeply when it's the language we're trying to learn, but sometimes we have the same issues in our native language, yet we just kind of don't bother with it, or it doesn't bother us enough to do something about it, or it's like, we just treat it as like, whatever, like, oh man, that part of the book was tough, and then that's it, you keep reading on, it's like, oh, okay, so it's making sense, and then it's whatever, right? So, especially because not everyone's kind of in my fortunate situation where I started learning while I was like a high school student, where I had a bit more time. Though arguably I probably have more time in college later on, but whatever. But it was at a time where I didn't have to worry about, like, I was like in high school, I wasn't thinking about the future, right? Like I could just think about the now, because the future was like after, like my future, whatever my future was, is after college, so I didn't have to worry about it. I already knew what I was going to be doing, like for the next 5 or 6 years at the time I started learning Japanese, which is finishing school, going to college, and then whatever gets after college, we figure it out when we get there. So mentally, like I guess you could say that it was a bit easier for me at that time. And it's not that simple for everybody, right? So, like who's doing it in like different points in their lives. But I would say that also kind of means that if you are trying to learn a language, whether it's Japanese or not, just make as much time as you can for it, and then just make use of that time, right? Do whatever listening, reading, and then you just the results will come. You just have to be patient, and it's one of those things where it's like if you spend enough time, there is no way that you're not going to be good at it at some point, right? So I know some people like to go nuts on learning the language, like, oh, I did this much in this amount of time, whatever. Not everyone's unemployed with unlimited time. Is what it is. And so another thing I kind of wanted to bring up that I had in here was that like polyglots, right? You see a lot of them. They spend a lot of time learning a bunch of different languages, and they get to a point where they can converse with people randomly and stuff like that. And I want to emphasize that a lot of people who do this kinds of stuff, they don't know the things that you do. They don't. What they did is amazing, really, that they've been able to get to the point where they could speak in the language in a very short amount of time, and kind of had like about a decent like breadth of topics. Like, don't get me wrong, like Shama is very like when I see him do stuff, it's very impressive. It's really cool. But I'm also saying is that for those of you who, a lot of you like watch my stuff and also like learners yourselves, like you guys are a lot better than you give yourself credit for, and this includes myself. Sometimes you'll forget an easy word. Sometimes you won't know, like there'll be a word and you're like, how the hell did I not know that for so long, right? Like I think I went so long without knowing what rice cooker was that it was hilarious. But again, like it's not that you're not good at the language, it's not that you don't know it. It's that there's just there's areas of knowledge, and you might be really strong in one area and really weak in another. It's kind of like you can. Let's just take I'm just low hanging fruit. But let's just take math. You can do numbers in your native of your head all day. You try to start doing any of that in Japanese, and your brain is gonna fry itself. Right? Like you're just doing it in English. You're running the numbers in your head like. Like obviously the numbers are all the same, but like if you're speaking about like if you're talking about it or something, or you're writing about it, it's like, oh, this is easy. Now try to speak about it in Japanese, and you're like, wait, because how they count the numbers a bit differently, right? It's like I think it's every 3 zeros, something like that. It's like because you have thousands, they don't count it the same. The way the Japanese language kind of counts numbers is not the same as how we do it in English in terms of how they're divided up. Like, like you have like 1,000, like how you have like senman, juman, hyakuman. Like we don't divide it in that same way. We have the same numbers, obviously, but we don't divide them up in the same way, and so it makes the math you can kind of get confused if when you're not a native speaker. So so there's a lot of that, and that's kind of what that's where you feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. It's like, no, it's a completely different topic. Like, I know a lot of stuff about weeb stuff. You take me since some day-to-day Japanese and I'm gonna get lost. Are you talking about some data like you stuff that outdoor people do? Because all I've been doing is being indoors, being like, this games, and that's most of my Japanese, and YouTube. And it's not like I'm watching a lot of stuff. It's not like I'm watching like a lot of like day in the life videos in Japanese or whatever. Like, that's not really what I'm doing. So, you know, it's something I felt I just kind of want to bring up. So, right. So, I guess I don't know if I should say bottom line, but I'm gonna just say it anyways. Bottom line is, it is still hard to start learning Japanese, right? Any language, it's well, I don't want to say any language. Japanese specifically is pretty difficult. If it's something close to your native language, it's probably not that bad, to be honest with you. Like anything that uses the alphabet, would probably be like if I wanted and to improve that Spanish, maybe that if I wanted to learn Portuguese, it'd be way easier than Japanese. Like theoretically speaking, it'd just be easier. There's no reason why it should be harder or anything like that. But like, it's just the beginning that sucks. It's just when the whole language is gibberish that it sucks. That's the only part that sucks. Once you get to the point to where you can understand something, understand some words, understand some grammar, maybe you read Takem's Grammar Guide, you learn some stuff about how the conjugations work, so you know when they're saying, oh, someone did something versus when someone made me do something or something like that. Once you get to that point, which to be fair can take a few months depending on how much you're listening or watching a day or whatever, it can take a while. But once you get to that point, there's nothing stopping you. I started playing Legends of Heroes Trails in the Sky the Third, Trails from Zero, Azure, like 6 months into learning because I was just dying to play those games. And I understood them pretty well. I think I can have discussions about those games later on, having never played them in English with people who played them in English after they got localized, and I have no problem keeping up with the conversation. So the beginning sucks, but after that, it's just a matter of how far you want to go. The sky's the limit. The problem is whether you want to go for the sky, or you want to go for a skyscraper, or you want to go for the 20th floor. It's up to you. And as long as you're happy with where you're at, you're fine. I know a lot of people who started learning Japanese to play games. They got to the point where they could play their games, and that's it. They don't really bother with all the Anki stuff or anything like that, which, to be fair, Anki's great, and I haven't touched Anki since I finished Full Metal Demon Muramasa, which was about 6 months up. 6 months? Oh, sorry. Probably 9 months ago at this point. I'm thinking about getting back into it, but we'll see. I'm not really gonna make any promises on here because once I do that, everything goes down the drain. But yeah. So yeah, I think that's more or less everything that I wanted to say. I just kind of wanted to talk about Japanese and stuff. Like, again, I think this is kind of like really it's what I made videos on this channel for. And even though I feel like sometimes I want to branch out or something, it's really hard to do that mentally. But I do like talking about the stuff, and for a lot of us, this is a hobby, and some people forget that. And you get caught up in like the online stuff of wanting to get really good and stuff, and forget that we're just doing this because we want to, because we like our media or whatever the case it may be. But it's not like we're looking at for a career out of this. And for those of you who are, best of luck to you. I'm not gonna say none of it applies to you, but like even then it still does, right? Areas of knowledge, there's a certain point where you'll be good, right, in terms of your understanding and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say for now. I'm just kind of, it popped into my head. I'm like, okay, we're just gonna make a video and upload it, and that's it. Um, it's not gonna be edited or anything like that. I just had a thought on my mind. I'm like, okay, we're gonna upload it, and that's it. So, um, about 20 minutes. I don't want to make this drag on for longer. So, thank you guys. For those of you who sat through this, me talking too much again. Hopefully the audio is. There's no like ear destruction on, because I know the microphone might have gone loud a couple times, but I typically talk low. But anyways, thank you guys for taking the time to sit through this. If you do, if you don't, that's fine too. But yeah, that's it for me. Maybe I'll upload something again sometime soon. Maybe not. I'm not going to make any promises. You'll just see the videos when they come up. So thank you. Have a good night.